do a serious one.
Yeah.
So joining you live from the World Championship 2023 in Barcelona, the Living Legend podcast.
All right, thumbs up. Let's do this. How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to the Living Legends podcast, your weekly Flesh and Blood podcast where we talk about all aspects of the Flesh and Blood trading card game. Here at the end of the year, we have a very fun episode for you all. We're going to be going over our top 5 favorite Flesh and Blood cards released in 2023. And of course, I am joined, as always, by my co-hosts. We'll go reverse order this time, starting off with Bill. Hey, Bill, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Hope everybody had a nice and relaxing and pleasant holiday season. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about sort of almost a year in review, but just from the actual cards standpoint. I think it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, 100%. And if you missed the last episode, we did more of a year in review where we talked. It was our holiday episode, right? And we had special guest Ian. The LSS basement dweller. Anyway, go check that episode out if you haven't seen it yet. It was live streamed on Red Zone Rogue, but it also is available now for you podcast audio only listeners. And then, of course, we have, last but not least, Az. Mr. Az, how are you doing today?
Yeah, not bad actually. Yeah, so just before we go into this, a bit of background. So we've delayed this a little bit because I've been out. It's Boxing Day currently in the UK, as the UK calls it, 26th of December, the day after Christmas. And I've just been out because my mum plays in a covers band, so it's her birthday today on Boxing Day, and she normally makes a big thing out of it. So I've just got back from that, which was a good time. Sang a little bit of "Sex on Fire" by Kings of Leon. I always get invited up onto stage to do a little bit of that song, so it's always a good one.
You gotta have some really good vocals to do that song too, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really belt it out. It's it's a nice one to do. But yeah, so we're going to be doing our top 5 favorite cards today, and as of this list as well. And if you've experienced the other lists that we have, these could be our top 5 cards for whatever reason. You know, it doesn't have to be meta dependent or whatever. It's if we like the mechanics, if we like the art. You know, it can be a variety of different reasons just to set the precedent before we go on.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Living Legends podcast veteran, you know the deal. If you're new here, well, hey, welcome. We are very happy to have you here, and we play it pretty fast and loose here on the Living Legends podcast. But it's all in the sake of good fun, and that's kind of what really matters to us. So,
absolutely.
Unless we have any special week in Flesh and Blood, we can probably jump into it, because I know I don't really have anything. My week has been defined mostly by the holidays and doing a bunch of other random card game stuff that maybe I'll touch on a little bit at the end for the Arsenal step. But right now, I don't really have much for this bit, unless you guys do.
Yeah, no, it's same for me. Holidays have been basically where my week began and ended, so
I think it's true for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I did a Christmas Day stream only because my girlfriend spends a lot of her time at the moment while she can over her nan's house, because she's 95 years old. So she can spend as much time as possible over there. So I had the house to myself basically on Christmas Day. So I thought, why not just do a Christmas Day stream where I just wasn't really Flesh and Blood related, really. It was just getting pissed on stream, like I did in Barcelona. Flesh and Blood. Actually, no. To be fair, I did play a few games on Talashar, so that towards the end of the stream, I did play a few games. But yeah, not much for me really either. So looking forward to speaking about cards again to a certain degree on this podcast today. So
yeah. All right. Well, let's speak about some cards. I'm gonna go ahead and start because I'm gonna do the most obvious pick of all time until we get to Az's cards, and then you'll get even more obvious picks. But I'm gonna kick it off with possibly my favorite card of the year. I'm not sure. This isn't in no particular order, by the way, but I figured the easiest way to kick this off would just be to talk about Uzuri. So hey, Uzuri, she's my favorite hero in Flesh and Blood. And I also have like a little bit of personal attachment of being able to spoil the hero, but I'll be completely honest here. Even if I didn't have any of that, she would still be my favorite hero. I love everything she does. She's a really fun, tricky assassin hero. She's actually also quite good, which helps a little bit, coming off of Arachne being not quite good. Still love Arachne. Still absolutely love Arachne. But yeah. Uzuri is my favorite hero in the game, and she's also the first hero that I spoiled, and also she's just incredibly fun. So all of these things together made her like the most obvious pick for me. So that's going to be my number one pick, Uzuri. Also, it is the only CC Flesh and Blood deck that I have up to date, and that is maybe semi-famously my almost all foil deck. So it's almost entirely foiled out. So
nice.
Yeah. That's how you know you really care about the deck, when you take the time and effort to like trick it all out. So.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
absolutely.
That's my number one pick.
Yeah, I love the theme of it as well. Obviously, it's assassin. Obviously, it plays a lot of mind games with your opponent because you always want to switch things in. You never know what that attack's going to be, and yeah, it's definitely on flavor for assassin. So it was nice to finally get. And obviously, Arachne was cool with regards to sort of banishing cards and going down that mill route, but I think Arachne just needs some extra things, which we are getting in heavy hitters. There's a cool card out for Arachne coming, but yeah, Uzuri has obviously put some nice results on the board with her stuff and what she wants to do.
And also Arachne is in the artwork as well, so you do see a little bit of Arachne and a little bit of Riptide too. So you get like the Spider Pits crew kind of in there. You get the whole squad, which is great.
Outsiders, great set, as we're gonna come to discover on this particular list.
Yes, spoilers. There's gonna be a lot of outsiders.
Outsiders all over the place. Yeah.
All right, so who wants to go next? I didn't actually pick an order for this. If anyone has a burning desire to go next, you may.
Let's go with Az next. I'm
All
interested to hear his picks to see if he picked anything that was not Ranger related.
Spoiler alert, absolutely not.
Dang it.
but yeah, so following on from Outsiders, yeah, my first one I'm going to mention is a selection of cards that all do similar things, which is one of the go-to buffs for Ranger decks now, and that's to lace with cards. So you've got Lace with Frailty, Lace with Blood Rot, Lace with Inertia. So these are all fantastic cards because obviously they give you the extra damage, the extra buffs that you need. But as a Ranger, as Azalea, you want these cascading effects that deal a lot of different debilitating effects to your opponent in tandem with the arrows that you're already firing. So if you're already firing, let's say, an infecting shot, that already has on-hit attached to it. But if you lace it with something else, it then gets another on-hit effect. And those collections of on-hit effects from various different arrows, whether it's Red in the Ledger to Remorseless, if you're lacing it with a Blood Rot, it's extra damage. If you're lacing it with an Inertia, you're going to have card advantage, etc. So the lace with cards are just perfect buffs for buffing up the big arrows, whether you want to dominate them or not, plus the cascading effects of the tokens that they give the opponent also. Are just what really sort of catapulted Azalea into the competitive space, at least. So yeah, really like those cards.
Yeah, you lace them with pure, unrefined, raw crystal inertia.
Yeah, absolute raw plague all over the arrow, and you fire it.
Yeah, definitely some pretty, at least in flavor, pretty disgusting cards.
Pretty disgusting, yeah.
You know they're like pretty good when they only made the red versions. We don't have a full cycle of them, so they're like, exactly. Yeah, you don't get 9 of these. You can only have 3 of each. You don't get 9.
Yeah, that's right. And they were actually quite hard to pull as well. When I was opening boxes of Outsiders, they're actually quite hard to get because obviously there was a lot of rares in the set, and they were quite hard to get because they were only the red versions of them as well. So back when we were opening boxes for this stuff, it was hard to get if you were trying to crack it for the stuff. But yeah, great cards overall. Really like them. And they do really just add a lot more to. I think you play every single one of these in an Azalea deck. I think the frailty is only brought in for certain matchups, but a Blood Rot on Inertia is a mainstay for sure.
I wonder if not to get too meta talk. I wonder if the inertias are going to be taken out post heavy hitters and swap for the frailties, right? Because you're going to have a lot more physical attacks, a lot more weapon attacks, and the arsenal might not matter as much, especially since like heroes like Icelander and Lexi are living legend now.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I mean the thing with inertia and things like seek and destroy and those sorts of effects that don't allow you to arsenal is obviously because you're basically a 5 intellect hero with the access to your top card of your deck and Death Dealer. If you can maintain the card advantage, you've got so much more advantage over the opponent, which is why the arsenal destruction is quite good, or the arsenal prevention is good. But yeah, frailty could see a lot more use going forward if we are thinking of heroes that like to swing weapons, which could be the case going forward, but we'll see.
I would not be surprised if you see a lot of sabers fly in left and right from Kasai soon. So
well, yeah, they're legal again right now, aren't they?
Yeah.
they living legended because Kasai was gone, and then suddenly you allowed them again. Was Blitz
for Blitz, so. But yeah, still you're right. That's true. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Bill. What you got?
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that brings it up to me. I have been very vocal about my favorite cards. There's at least one that I know as referenced last week that has been my favorite card since it was released. I'm going to save it for a little bit later, though, because it's kind of the obvious pick. I'm going to start out actually with Buzzsaw Trap. Which is kind of an interesting one for me to reference because I don't really play Riptide, but the times that I have played Riptide, especially against Az, and just the idea behind what this card does is phenomenal. I love the way that it interacts in basically the way that your opponent doesn't want it to, where it fully blocks a Dawnblade no matter what. It is a good thing that this thing is legendary in keyword, because if you were able to play 3 of these, the Dorinthia matchup would be miserable for the warrior. It is also just extremely good against other rangers, specifically against Az. I think this is one of his least favorite cards to see
it really is.
Come down.
Yeah.
There was a time we were playing against each other where I think he had it was a dominated red in the ledger for 13 or something.
13, 14, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it had an aim counter on it, and Deadeye was one of the buffs. It was just this huge thing, and I was just block with Crown of Providence, move to defense reactions, and he's like, no, and I'm like, oh, no, yeah. He's like, oh. I'm like, yeah, so that's fully blocked. He's like, really? It doesn't go for any more? I'm like, nope, it's 5.
Fully blocked. Yep. You literally just cancelled 3 cards and you played 1. You played one card and a piece of equipment, and I wasted 4 cards on the 1. Yeah. So it's a ridiculous trade.
Buzzsaw Trap, more like Arclight Trap, am I right?
Pretty much, yeah. Counterspell. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, Buzzsaw Trap just is such a powerful defense reaction. I love how it works, and I think it's one of the things that makes Riptide just such a scary deck to sit down against for very specific other heroes. But
absolutely,
yeah. The form and function of it, the design of it, I think it's really, really good. So big fan. Love Buzzsaw Trap, and that's my first one to pick.
Yeah.
And you get to add a little bit of insult to injury by poking them for 1 damage too when you do it. That's also great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, by the way, you also take a damage. And they're like, really? Can you stop?
So it's fully blocked and I take 1? Okay, then.
Yep, you take 1.
Yeah, Arsenal pass.
All right. So, keeping with the pits theme, my card will be, let's do this one. I'm gonna do another pretty spicy one. I'm gonna pick Plague Hive as my second card. Plague Hive isn't the most powerful Fabled. It isn't the most expensive Fabled, but in my opinion, it is the most fun Fabled, at least for me. And I love everything about this card. It's balanced very well. I love that it's yellow pitch instead of blue pitch. I love that the token that you get is completely random. The art is done by Mark Poole, and it looks like a Moxen almost. I love everything about this card. It is so cool. I was fortunate enough to open up one of these in my Outsiders pre-release, Rainbow Foil version, and it did win me a game. It won me my third or fourth match, where my opponent was attacking me, and I was able to do one of the instant, I can't remember what it's called, like Shrug Off or something, one of the instant speed cards, pitching Plague Hive, giving them a Blood Rot Pox where after they had already played out their entire hand, and so they died after the attack, after the turn was over, which was just so good. It was so good. It was great. And it was one of those moments where I had like, he and I were like finishing up our game, and several other people have finished their matches, and so there are people like surrounding us, watching us play, and so it was a really fun moment, being like, all right, I'm gonna do some stuff, and it's gonna matter, and I'm like, pitch Plague Hive to play this card, and then it's this really fun moment where you get to lay out the 3 tokens, and then you do your dice roll to see which one you get. Very like, you can play it up very like showmanshipy. So yeah, I love Plague Hive. It's great. This is one of the I think this is the only Fabled that I went out of my way to buy a cold foil version, even though I had already opened up a rainbow foil version. I was like, I love this so much that I want to buy a cold foil version from our obligatory mention FABTCG cards. Jim from FABTCG cards, bought it from him. And then I also asked Jim, I was like, hey Jim, can you do me a favor? Can you get Mark Poole to sign my rainbow foil one? So I mailed him my rainbow foil one, and he got Mark Poole to sign it. So I still have 2. One of them is signed by Mark Poole. So
that Baltimore, was it, that you got him to do that?
Yeah, basically.
He also picks up some other stuff for you as well, didn't he? I think that event as well.
It was I think it was. That's where he picked up the Uzuri Shikishi drawing from Iswardi that Iswardi did for me.
That's right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
You can't really see it in my. Well, I can actually just move the.
Look at this live adjustment going on here.
Oh, it's still a bit of glare,
Still
but
can't see it.
Yeah, it's right there. But Iswardi did me a hand drawn Uzuri that I very much love. Anyway,
Nice.
so that's my second pick. Plague Hive. Love Plague Hive. It's great. I put it in all my even though a lot of people don't. I put it in all my Assassin and Ranger decks. I don't care. It's getting in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how about I think we're back to you, Az.
Back to me, yeah. Fantastic. Well, this Bill will be pleased with this because this was the Spike Feeders spoiler card for Outsiders. Actually, this was Infecting Shot. Probably the best damage dealing arrow that you can have now as a Ranger player, because obviously it's a 1 for 5. But obviously, if you count the Blood Rot as well on hit, it's a 1 for 7 basically.
1 for 8 if you include the aim counter.
Exactly, yeah. And I actually won a few games. I won the game last night that I played on the Christmas Day stream. Was against a patron of Go Again Gaming. So thanks Ian for the game. But he was playing Rhinar, and what I needed was a 6 power arrow to hit him with. And obviously, in the Rhinar matchup, you don't run things like Battering Bolt because you don't need to use Battering Bolt. You need a 6 power. I needed a 6 power arrow, and luckily I had the resources to be able to dominate it with Azalea, put the aim counter on it by pitching a yellow, so that buffed it by 1. Because obviously the Infecting Shot, same with Sedation and Withering Shot. If they have the aim counters on it, they get a +1 buff. And with the Crow's Nest, it allows you to do that. So that allowed me to find the 6 power arrow that I needed to dominate through the extra damage. So yeah, it's a really, really good card in general. And if you want a 6 power arrow, you can find it if you've got the resources to pay for it. So it's very, very good. So a staple in Ranger decks going forward for a damage dealer. It used to be things like Headshot. Headshot was the 1 for 6 if it comes in face up. And you can make the argument that still could be good in certain situations because you want the 6 damage up front rather than the on-hit Blood Rot Pox. But Infecting Shot, if you've got the resources to do so, will still come in for 6 if you need it to. So yeah, Infecting Shot I've tried things like Headshot, Widowmaker, other cards that have other things to it, but I think Infecting Shot is just better in all situations. So Yeah, you were pretty stoked to spoil that as well, right? Because you knew it was pretty good when you got it.
Yeah. We were when we first got it, my immediate reaction was and like obviously I don't expect anything when we get our spoiler cards. I'm always happy to get a spoiler card at all. But my first reaction was like, really? A common? Like I wanted to do something a little bit flashier, whatever. Like that's kind of what I had in mind. But then I like read the card even just one additional time and I was like, hey, wait a second.
Yeah.
Wait, I think this is maybe like really, really good.
Yeah.
It is. It's very good.
My first reaction was just like, this is just like a 3 of in like all of the Ranger decks, right? Like the red version at least, and maybe even the blue version. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this is like you compare it to Headshot, and like Headshot is a 1/4/6 sometimes if you fire it on the same turn that you put it in. And like this one is, even without the aim counter, a 1/7 if you count the value that you get from the Bloodrot Pox. Like if your opponent doesn't fully block it, it still hits for 3. Like it's, and then it also has the potential of, if you just need the 1 extra damage and you have a resource, you can put an aim counter on it with Crow's Nest, and like it's just so good. Like just such a good baseline arrow to have. So I was really, really excited when we got that one after the first initial impression.
I actually think a better comparison, maybe not a better comparison, but I think it's a fair comparison to make, which speaks highly as how good Infecting Shot is that it reminds me more of Remorseless than any of those other cards, because Remorseless has that on-hit effect to drain your opponent's life. Well, not drain, but like, make them lose life. And Infecting Shot basically has the same kind of thing, on-hit effect to make them lose 2 life specifically. Remorseless is a little bit different because it has a higher top end, and also it has evasion built into it. But I think it's like comparable.
Yeah. It's just a very efficient arrow.
Yeah, it is very
just very good.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like the reason why I've toyed with things like Headshot is because obviously the Headshot comes in for base value of 6, whereas Infecting Shot does not have the base value of 6. You have to put the extra aim counter on it to get the base value of 6. So there has been times where I've experimented with Headshot, but Infecting Shot just seems to be just more consistent across the board for all purposes. And if you have the resources, you can make it a 6, which I did yesterday, which came into play. So, yeah, just a very good card. I'm not sure if yellows or blues are really used, but the red version is obviously what you got to spoil, and it was, very, very good. Very, very good card. So, that is my second pick.
Extremely excited, and a good pick.
Pure damage dealing arrow. Absolutely.
All right, Bill.
That's that.
What you got for your second?
Oh yeah, back to me. Okay, so I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna get this one just out of the way. This is the one that I was referring to previously as like maybe, honestly, probably my favorite designed card like up to this point. It's in the top tier of designed cards, and that is Scowling Fleshbag. I have not even had an opportunity to really play with it, but everything about it just feels right. It feels like just a perfectly designed card. Every time I see somebody else talk about it, it's like just people gushing about how good like defensive Intimidate is, and how much better it feels to play with and against than offensive Intimidate, especially in Blitz. There was even a discussion locally in the Winnipeg Flesh and Blood Discord where people were saying, I hope that there's more defensive Intimidate, because it's really interesting and it makes Brute, without changing what Brute does by introducing a new keyword or anything, it changes the function of the deck and actually makes it into a really impactful like defensive deck by just flipping when the Intimidate happens. And I think that is super cool. It's a very just simple card. It has 3-4 words on it, but those 4 words are incredible.
Technically 5 looking at it, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I do know what it does. So I honestly
6 if you include Blade Break. I'm sorry, there was
Blade
4
Break.
4 with no Blade Break plus 2
because
with
it's
Blade Break.
when you block with this Intimidate.
Even simpler.
When this defends,
when you block.
Intimidate.
When this defends,
there you go.
Intimidate. Blade Break.
It was 4.
Blade Break.
Yeah.
So 6 words.
Blade Break,
yeah,
great show,
just-
by the way. I'm just going to say, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, but honestly, now with heavy hitters, I'm really looking forward to playing more Brute. I think that there's
Yeah.
going to be a decent amount of Brute support. I'm hoping that it just brings a defensive Brute into the sort of limelight, or into just at all into existence, because defensive Intimidate is just a really interesting axis to play on. And I would love to play like a defensive Levia deck and have it not be like a meme.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Scowling Fleshbag I think my favorite designed card of the year. This isn't like a list that's in order, but it's also one of my favorite designed cards in Flesh and Blood of all time.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite cards of the set for sure. And I don't even play Brute, so yeah, it's great.
Yep.
It's just nice to see, class-specific keywords on an equipment when you're defending. Like, it's just a strange thing to see. Like, intimidate when you're defending. It's just like, what? What's going on?
Well, I think the most brilliant part about this, whether intended or not, is that it takes a very unfun mechanic, in my opinion, one of the most unfun mechanics in the entire game, and makes it into like a really interesting thing. I'm not sure if it's a fun thing, but I think it's a really interesting thing. And much more so than just regular Intimidate, where it's just like, yeah, get rid of your hand. Where this one's more like, I don't know, it's really cool. And when you choose to block with it is like also very cool. And the fact that it's like on board, so you can, as the opponent, you can see that it's telegraphed, right? So you also have to plan your attack around it and try to bait it out. I think it's really interesting, and it's just super cool. Yeah. I love it as well. It
affects a lot of things. Like if you see like a Katsu or a Fi or whatever, just start with an Art of War. Right, this is going to be the Scowling Fleshbag. Is going to disrupt their whole sort of sequence, what they've planned out. So you can really sort of punish the overextension of someone's turn if you Scowling Fleshbag them, because it intimidates at random as well. So they could just dismantle their entire turn.
You time walk Uzuri with this. Uzuri likes to have 2-card hands.
Yeah,
so you come in with a stealth card, they block the stealth card, then they have to get rid of the other card. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so cool that it operates as a rattlesnake. Like it's that's one of the reasons that I love the design of this card, and why it and Mask of Momentum are my two favorite design cards in the game, because you could potentially win a game with Scowling Fleshbag and have it be the reason that you won without it triggering, without blocking with it at all. It could just make your opponent so worried about what it is that you're actually going to do that they end up not attacking on an impactful turn. I love it. I think it's just really clean design, very, very masterfully done. So yeah, whoever at LSS was the one that actually designed Scowling Fleshbag, like, good job.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so
Absolutely.
My third pick is going to be, let's see. I'm going to save those two. So let's do Codex of Bloodrot. So Codex of Bloodrot is going to be my third favorite card of the year. I think it is the most underrated of the codices. And it is just, it's my favorite one. I know everyone really loves some of the other ones. We'll maybe save that for later discussion in this very episode, but I'm gonna talk about Bloodrot here. What I love about Bloodrot is that, unlike the other cards, it doesn't give your opponent card advantage or card parity or card selection in any way. Where Frailty, if your opponent has an empty arsenal, they can get a card back. If for Inertia, they can get a card from the top of their deck that they otherwise wouldn't have access to for the next turn. Bloodrot doesn't do any of those things. Bloodrot's like, you have to dunk a card from your hand into your arsenal. You don't get an extra card. You just have to put the one you have in. So you don't get any extra card advantage. But what it does do is that it rips a card out of their hand. And Flesh and Blood is a game all about like card equity, right? And a lot of cards, especially when you talk to Wizard players, especially like Icelander players, is they talk a lot about stuff like, I just want to demand a card from your hand. That's what their cards want to do, is they want to take cards from their hand. And that's literally what Codex of Bloodrot does. It rips a card from their hand, puts it into their arsenal. So when you play this, your opponent inherently now has one less card to block with, unless it had a defense reaction, of course. But yeah, you just rip a card out of their hand. Then they also get a Blood Rot Pox, and then you also get a Ponder. So it does maybe a little bit of virtual damage as well. So it's like a very offensive card, dealing damage and then potentially ripping a card out of your opponent's hand. I really like Codex of Blood Rot. It's my favorite one. I like it more for Blitz, where the damage matters a lot more, where the two points of damage from the Blood Rot actually matters a lot more. But yeah, I still really like this. And I still think this is a legitimately good pick in Blitz Lexi, where you just want to go wide and then rip cards out of your opponent's hand, and making him put a card in the arsenal is just one less card that they can block with. So yeah, I like it. Codex of Blood Rot.
Yeah,
number one Codex of Blood Rot fan here. It was between, by the way, I had two Blood Rot picks here. It was between this one and Spreading Plague. Spreading Plague was the other one I was thinking about picking.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to give Blood Rot a shout because I think it's underrated. So I think it'd be a lot more played if they didn't print Frailty. But
yeah.
Yes, perhaps.
Yeah, when you have the option between dealing 2 damage or attacking your opponent with another red in the ledger, it's kind of tough.
Yeah. So I should mention the trick with this, by the way. So the trick with this with Lexi is that what Codex of Blood Rot does is both players have to put a card from their hand face down into the arsenal, and that's really important that it's face down, because with Lexi you put an ice or a lightning card face down, and then you can use Lexi's hero ability to turn that card face up and then get that bonus from turning the card face up. So this is specifically why I really like it in Lexi, because you put one of the cantrip ice cards face down, use Lexi's ability, give them a frostbite, and then you play the cantrip card from your arsenal, and because it's played from your arsenal, you get a draw card. So it's like it synergizes really, really well with the Lexi cantrip stuff. So just in the case you didn't know, that's specifically why I really like Codex of Blood Rot. I don't think it functions quite as synergistically in Riptide or Azalea, but specifically in Lexi, putting the cards face down, getting the turn up equity, and then the play from arsenal equity is also really good. So it's kind of like a reload ish kind of thing that you get to do.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah.
All right, Az, what is your
Fantastic.
third pick?
Third pick, obviously in no particular order, but this is, let me just get out my notes here, Spire Sniping. The blue version is what I've mentioned on my notes here. So yeah, blue block 3s, we know how good they are in any deck, really, just the resources and the block when you need it. But obviously, if a blue block 3 has a synergistic effect with what your deck wants to do, it is very good, even when you have to play that card for its effect that you use. So if you have this in your arsenal, so if you've arsenaled a Spire Sniping the turn before, you can use Cross Wrap to flip it up and essentially look at the top 2 and then rearrange it. So it's a better Skullbone Cross Wrap trigger if that's in your arsenal, basically. So you get 2. But even on the turns where you have a blue Spire Sniping in your hand and you've got nothing else, you can still dig for something else if you need to try and dig for something else. So it can really help those ranger hands if you've only got the one blue Spire Sniping. You can still load that in, draw a card, and then see what the 2 cards deep you can potentially get for an Azalea Dominate. So yeah, and also obviously it's an arrow as well, so you can still lace it with the cards. You can still put Seek and Destroys and stuff behind it, so it synergizes with all of your other buffs as well. So if you do need to, worst case scenario, fire it, then you can do that with all the buffs that are previously mentioned already, with the lace widths and other things that we'll yet to mention. Yeah, just a great blue block 3 with a great effect. And Brody Spurlock has used it to great effect in competitive games as well, as we've seen a lot of times. So yeah, it's definitely a good one. So that's my third pick. Blue Spire Sniping specifically.
Yeah. It's a great one to get in limited.
That's a good one,
yeah. I mean, in constructed too, like Az said, but I played a lot of Outsiders Limited, and if you're in the Azalea deck, this is like a really, really, really nice pickup.
Yeah, just dig it. Just make it just digging, and just digging for that big arrow that you want to fire, and just fueling your deck for resources, or if you need to block it. That's it.
Yeah, in Outsiders Limited, there's actually not a ton of like opt-in card manipulation, because obviously you don't have your Skullbone Crosswrap or anything like that. So
right.
cards like this are like a premium in that deck. They put in a lot of work. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. What's that?
All right, Bill.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we have yet another Brute card from the non-Brute player.
What?
But but just continuing on the trend of cards that I think are designed exceptionally well, we have Slithering Shadowpede. I also fell in love with this card as soon as it was released, especially in tandem with all of the like if you banish a card with 6 or more attack, you can play it this turn. There was a lot of payoff for this card specifically. Obviously, it has that effect on its own, but there were just a bunch of other cards that say like banish a random card from your hand, and then it gave you an additional effect if it was a card with 6 or more. So this then giving you the additional effect of still being accessible on that turn kind of just said draw a card, especially when you're playing so card neutral. Slithering Shadowpede just helps you keep some of that parity. Actually, just bringing it up just to make sure that I am remembering it correctly, because I mean it's a card that I love. So
yeah,
because it doesn't block, I know that for a fact, and it's a 1 for 6.
Yeah.
Okay. If this was banished from your hand this turn, you may play it from your banish zone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like you could play this with Art of War, and then it's a 1 for 7. Potentially would go again, depending on what you pick. Like I love it. It's another card that really makes me want to play Levia, and I probably will in the coming year. I think that's probably a deck that I'm going to look into playing more of, even in CC.
Yeah.
And yeah, if possible, a defensive version of Levia would be like my optimal. This is what I would want to play, because you have access to like Levia Redeemed to turn off all your blood debt, or even Plasma Fet if you get to a point where you've controlled the game enough that you can just, okay, here's the turbo button. I'm gonna just blast you down now. And Slithering Shadowpede, I think, helps with that quite a bit. So yeah, big fan. Really like this card, and just how it interacts with Levia, especially the new support cards as a whole.
I hate this card because I opened 20 boxes of Dust Held On, and I opened up one of them in like 20 something boxes.
Wow.
I wanted to get more so I could actually like play the deck and like build Levia, but I ended up. This is not a video about the pull rates recently, but did not pull close to enough to even do that. So I was just like, whatever. But cool card, really cool card. I wanted to open it up. That's why I'm salty about it.
One of my favorite cards that's just utter garbage. We never see any play with it. Is Guardian of the Shadow Realm. Which
screw that card. That card is the opposite. I opened up a ton of Guardian of the Shadow Realm. I think I literally have like close to 20 of those MFers, and like maybe like 6 or 7 foil ones. It's insane. Like every box of Monarch I opened had a friggin' Guardian of the Shadow Realm in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it never sees any play whatsoever, but it's just a 6 block that you can continuously recur. So I would love to see sort of a defensive shadow. Well, we do see that in Vincent now. Vincent can be quite defensive. I'm not sure whether she uses this card or not, but it's just one that always stuck out to me from Monarch. When I discovered Monarch for the first time, I was still very new to the game, and this was something I was trying to make work because I thought it was sick that you could just keep getting back a 6 block defense reaction. But that's going way off topic with the Guardian of the Shadow Realm.
Let me know if you need any. I've got like 3 full binder pages of them, so just let me know.
I'm sure a lot of people have.
Yeah. All right. All right. So my 4th pick is going to be another one of my spoiler cards. It's also a card that Well, I'm just going to pull it up here. So this is Shriek Razors. So I really love Shriek Razors on a lot of different levels. I love that. I love the art. It's very like Freddy Krueger cyberpunk kind of vibes. I love that it kind of looks like the person in the art is also wearing the red back shroud, which is very cool. If you look carefully, it kind of looks like they're wearing the red back shroud. But I also love that it is another one of your buyback cards or your silver buyback cards. And the more I thought about it, the more I liked it. So when I first saw the card, I'll read out what it does. So it has the silver buyback ability. So if it's in your graveyard at the start of your turn, you can destroy 2 silvers to re-equip it. It has Battle Worn and blocks for 1, which is pretty good, actually. All of the silver cards do that. They'll have Battle Worn and block for 1. This one's ability to destroy it is, as an attack reaction for 2 resources and destroying it, target attack action card defending an assassin attack gets -1. It's very specific, right? It's not just like, oh, you get a +1 on your attack. It is specifically an attack action defending an assassin attack gets -1. That does work on weapon attacks. It just has an assassin attack, so it can be a weapon as well. But what I really like about this is the threat of activation that it gives you over your really nasty on-hit effects. Because if you're the kind of player who's playing like Uzuri or even Arachne, and you're sandbagging a couple of cards in your hand, say you're attacking with Surgical Extraction, and you attack with your Surgical Extraction, and you still have another card in your hand, and you have a Shriek Razors equipped, your opponent kind of has to block, assuming you could crack the Shriek Razors, and I really, really love that about it. Is it better than Flick Knives? I don't know. Maybe not. Probably not. A lot of people still run the Flick Knives, but I have seen some people playing around with Shriek Razors. I've also been playing around with Shriek Razors. And I think the threat of activation is the biggest selling point to this. And it's similar to the way that people play around cards like Mask Momentum. Obviously in different ways. Mask Momentum is just nuts. But it's still similar where...
Scowling Fleshbag.
Yeah, Scowling Fleshbag. Fleshbag is a better comparison, I think, because Fleshbag's a one-off and like you do it once. And Shriek Razors, you technically can do it more than once, but the way I evaluate it is you evaluate it as the one-off. You can do it more than one though, if you can buy it back. But like, yeah, having a really nasty on-hit effect and and a card in hand basically means your opponent is like, well, I can't just 3 block and then toss a one-piece equipment in front of this. Like they could just crack the Shriek Razors and then rip a card out of my hand with either like a shakedown or with the Surgical Extraction. So that's why I like about this card, and I think this is a card that is one that you'll always look at possibly including in your assassin decks. If you have like these nasty on-hit effects and you're like, how much do I value the 1 point of damage or 2 points of damage from Flick Knives versus really pushing through a nasty on-hit effect? And then
another thing as well about the comparison between these two is that Flick Knives has Blade Break, whereas Shriek Razors has Battle Worn. So you can actually block with Shriek Razors and still have it around for the effect. Whereas if you have to block for the one with the Flick Knives, you just don't get the effect because you blocked with it and it dies.
Yep.
So there is also that argument as well as to which one could be better depending on what matchup you've got.
And keep in mind, Shriek Razors can keep coming back, so you can technically block with them more than once as well.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so it's cool. There's a couple like I said, there's some caveats to it. Like it only gives attack action cards -1 defense, and only if you're attacking with an assassin attack. But still really cool. This is one of the cards that like against certain decks you obviously don't run. So even in my Uzuri deck, I run both Shriek Razors and Flick Knives. And then if I'm playing against like Dromai or I guess Kano, because Icelander's not there anymore, but you take this out if they're playing not very many attack actions, right? Because it does nothing. But
exactly.
I still think it's a really cool card, and I like it. So that's Shriek Razors. How about back to you, Az, for your 4th pick?
Back to me. Yeah. Cool. So number 4, again in no particular order. So Premeditate is my next card.
This is not a Ranger card. What is this?
What is it? This is generic, absolute ponder run, as they call it. But yeah, so this is fantastic. So first of all, the art is probably my favorite this year. because it's
Good.
just Azalea looking, smoldering, just holding binoculars. I imagine her holding different things, but hey ho.
Yeah, like that burger.
Yeah,
Right.
Burger. Yeah,
Burgers.
that's Burger.
That's right. Egg rolls. Anyway, so another thing about this as well is that mechanically it's also very good because obviously Ponder is what refills your arsenal at the end. So if you've got a Ponder token, you refill your arsenal at the end. And why is that good with Azalea? Because you can opt and you can continue the train of having card advantage and card selection. So Ponder is very, very good in Azalea, of course. But yeah, it's just my favourite art of the year also. And it holds a special place because Izuali did the artist proof for me on the back of the Premeditate card for Worlds, which holds a special place as a memory and a piece of art that I've got. So yeah, just hits on a lot of cylinders for me. And Outsiders yet again, Outsiders card. So very good.
It's one of those cards that I look at and I look at the art and I think like I kind of wish we had more art like this in Flesh and Blood. There's a lot of just like one-off pieces of just like a random dude or a random lady or whatever, like random person just doing a thing. But like this is one of the few pieces that actually showcases like a hero kind of in action, right? Like they're like scoping something out. And I wish we had more art like this in Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, it's not like they're doing an action for an attack or something. They're just chilling out. They've got the binoculars in hand. It's clear that you know what they're doing. They're scoping out, but in this particular art, she's just there looking, with the binoculars in hand. So it's a nice moment for the art. It's not like you can see Azalea pulling back and about to fire something. It's just her chilling out, taking a moment to take the binoculars down and looking at the situation from there. So yeah, it's something that we don't see very often. So it is nice to have that snapshot in the art. And Izuali just knocks it out of the park every single time, as we know. So shout out to him if you're listening. I know you do sometimes. So there we are.
Yeah. All right, Bill.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, my next one is the one and only illusionist card that's actually on this list, surprisingly enough, as somebody who loves illusionist as much as I do. There just really wasn't that much support for the style of illusionist that I like to play this year.
For the deck.
But that does not mean that there weren't any banger illusionist cards that were revealed. And one of them, and I think my favorite one to really showcase what I like about the new sort of style of cards, is one of the figments for the new Prism deck. And that is Figment of Erudition is the one that I decided to pick as my favorite, because card advantage is just really powerful. And I don't think that that's particularly. I don't think that's a particularly controversial thing for me to say.
I'm going to debate you for 3 hours on how card advantage is bad in Flesh and Blood.
Card advantage sucks. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a toss-up between Figment of Erudition and Figment of Protection as to which one is like the most powerful. I think Figment of Protection is more of a proactive thing, but Figment of Erudition, especially when it just comes down initially, is good to sort of stabilize your... if you're sort of behind on card quality or card quantity. I think Figment of Erudition helps out a lot by just entering play, making a Ponder token, and then you have the option of flipping it into a 4/4 that draws you 2 cards on attack.
On attack? It's not even on hit? You just do it?
Just on attack. Like turning into Soraya and being a 4/4 with Ward 4, so it is also just 4 health if you really need it to be. That when it attacks, you banish a card from your soul, and if you do, you draw 2 cards, and you get all that for 2 resources. Very strong. Very, very good. We were talking about Ponder tokens and just about how good they are for keeping just number of cards available up for you. And yeah, I think that's something that this card does extremely well, especially because with the new Prism, you're able to tutor it from your deck. So you don't even need to get this one if it's not the one that you need right away. Just makes it that much better, in my opinion. Yeah, really, really big fan of the Figments as a whole, but I think that Figment of Erudition is probably my favorite one. for everything that it allows you to do.
Surprise, surprise,
too.
drawing cards and replacing cards and seeing more
Drawing
cards is
cards.
obviously a good thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think Figment. I think Erudition is also my favorite. I also think it's the best one as well. But
Yeah. Although I will say as well, shout out to the two that were illustrated by Eric Klug, because I'm a big fan of Eric Klug.
it was like it
I
was
can't remember which two.
Rebirth and what's the other one? Rebirth for sure.
Rebirth and Figment of War were the two
War.
that he
Oh, yeah, so
illustrated, and they are
the
done in his
other-
phenomenal stained glass style.
Yeah, the other side of War is the one done by Livia Prima's partner, Billy.
Yes.
Yeah, Billy Christian. Yeah, great artist as well. Yeah, cool stuff. That card in particular, the War one, is up there for my favorite arts because you have the Klug art on one side and then you have Billy Christian's art on the other side, and it's this really cool like the dichotomy. I don't know, I dig it. Anyway,
Yeah, I agree.
the Figments had just amazing art. That's the best part of Dust to Dawn, in my opinion. Like the Figment art was incredible.
I'm just surprised you didn't choose the Carlos Cruchaga one there, Bill, with the, the Figment of Tenacity.
Very true and very fair. I am a big fan of Carlos Cruchaga.
I mean, if we were just picking, I mean, like you're spoiled for choice. I don't have them all queued up here, but I know Soyame did Protection, and then Bastion did the other one, Figment of, I forget what it's called, but his art is incredible, like insanely good. So anyway,
Yeah, there's honestly just too many good ones.
Yeah,
they're so good. It's one of the reasons why I built the Highlander. So Az and I did a Highlander stream like a couple weeks ago, and if you don't know what Highlander is, it's a format where you can only play one of any unique card in your deck, yada yada yada. But I built a Prism deck, a new Prism Advent of Thrones deck, and I don't own a copy of all of the Figments because, once again, even though I bought like 20 something boxes, still didn't open up a full playset. But I threw all the ones that I had in there. They're great. They're just sweet to look at.
yeah, pretty nice.
All right, let's get back on track. My final pick, my fifth and final pick, is very fittingly Final Act, which is, if you don't remember what this card is, Final Act is one of the Bard attack action card from the Around the Table box set. So Final Act is a 1-drop, 1-attack Bard attack action that blocks for 3 that says, when this attacks, it gets plus X attack, where X is twice the number of all cards in all pitch zones. I love this card on so many levels. This was the eureka moment when I was shown the Bard deck. So for those of you who don't know, I got to play with the Round the Table decks maybe 2 or 3 weeks before they were spoiled. I played them at the professor's place, just kind of like get some games in to play test, all that kind of good stuff. And reading this card really made things click for the Bard deck, because when you flip through it, you're like, what the hell? Like, this deck doesn't do anything. Yeah. And then you see this and you're like, oh,
What's the win con? Yeah.
Oh, I see. This card paired with Encore. That's really how you do it. And so what I really love about this card is that it provides an avenue for play that previously doesn't really exist much in Flesh and Blood, which is like this kind of like group huggy combo style. And it's really, really combo, like unlike Flesh and Blood. Flesh and Blood doesn't really have this kind of combo, but other games do. And that's where you like build up a bunch of things and then you just kind of like wombo combo off all in one turn. It's pretty rare in Flesh and Blood, outside of like a couple corner case things. But I also love that it still plays into the multiplayer aspect because it says all pitch zones. So if your opponents really want to kill someone, they can help you kill them with the Final Act by pitching stuff if they have the ability to do so, right? You can't just pitch for no reason. But if they have the ability to do so, like maybe an instant speed activation pitch on their hero or something. Like if there's a Kano playing, a Kano can help you out, by the way, but by doing stuff. So yeah, Final Act, absolutely love it. Art's really cool. It's got a great perspective, but I mostly just love like the gameplay of this card, and I love the creativity and the design. Yeah, Final Act is my final card.
Nice. Final act. That's Cal's final act for today.
Yeah.
Love it.
How about Az, your final pick?
So it's back to me, isn't it? So this is probably one of the most meta choices of today, and that is Codex of Frailty. So there's just a lot to say on this card as to why it's good. But yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, if you play it on the end of a combat chain after you've gone pretty wide with Azalea, especially now with bullseye bracers available to us, you can really overextend with this. You can play something, put something into your arsenal of Death Dealer, potentially give that a go again with either whether it's bolt and shot or snappies. Then you can put something in with bullseye bracers to then fire something else, and then you can play a codex on the end of that to really overextend. Or if not, if you've had to block with a few things a turn before, you can play this and get something back and then still be able to replace your arsenal. You can strip a card from the opponent to make it harder for them to block. There's so many axes on this card. And I think on the Speedy Awards, it was voted as one of the most hated alongside Warmongers, because of the amount of value you can get out of it is just crazy. But it's nice to know that Azalea can sort of lean on one of the most powerful cards in the game. So yeah, that's definitely my number one pick. There's been so many plays where I've been able to use Codex to just get so much value out of the graveyard of stuff that you've either fired already in the game or blocked with early to then fill your graveyard, so you can then act as if the Codex is a copy of that card anyway, even though you've used it to block early on. So yeah, it's incredibly good, and we spoke about it all year. Content creators everywhere, people on Twitter everywhere have spoken about this card so many times before. So I don't want to go too much into it, but yeah, that's my number
to
one
this
pick.
day.
Very, very good.
I think Brian Gottlieb still has never read Codex of Frailty.
No, I don't think so. I think he's admitted that as well on one of the previous previous podcasts. Well, the Instant Speed one at least. I think he introduced one of the categories. I think it was the most hated card, and he did admit that he never read it to begin with. So yeah. But yeah, that's a very good one.
I was chatting with him down at the local tchotchkes, and he was just like, I'll tell you a secret, Kel. I've never read Codex of Frailty. And I was like, yeah.
That makes sense. Probably hasn't read any Flesh and Blood cards, period. You know, he's just there. But if you're listening to this, Brian, I'm going to be in New York soon. I think you're based in New York now, so let us know if you're going to be available.
That dude is like everywhere, man. That dude, he's everywhere.
Yeah, but
that's
my pick.
He's never read Codex of Frailty. I've never read Spellbound Creepers. You know, everybody has their preferences.
Spellbound Creepers, like, I don't know, does stuff for something, you know.
Every single time I play with it and I activate it, I just say something else, and nobody's corrected me yet. So
yeah, people are just like, they're like, I put a counter on Spellbound Creepers, and then it lets me play my entire hand for free, and then I get action points for every card that I play, right? And then it also does you arcane damage, and then I'll block with it for 8 as well. And you're like, sure.
And then they're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it feels like a Runeblade card. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Can I read that? You look at the card, giant wall of text. I don't want to read it anyway. I'll just assume what you said is right.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
yeah, I'll throw it over to Bill now. But yeah, that's Codex of Frailty, my last card.
So, the final card for our recap is another card that I have talked about.
I just want to preface this before Bill gets to his final card. Looking at Bill's final card and my final card and then Az's final card, I think it's funny how Az has by far and away the most meta competitive card out of all three of us. Like, Bill and I picked like these weird jank things, and Az has picked the sweaty ass card.
Azalea's year, okay? That's what I'm say with regards to that.
Anyway, continue, Bill. I thought it was funny looking at it.
Yeah. Oh no, it is absolutely funny. But yeah, so the card that I decided was gonna. I mean, again, not in any particular order. It's not like it's rounding out my list or anything. But one of the 5 cards that I really wanted to highlight today is from Bright Lights. I think it's the only card from Bright Lights that we've talked about so far.
Technically, Shriek Razors was from Bright Lights. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
But yeah. So from the main set
Yes.
of Bright Lights, we have Grinding Gears, which I am genuinely a big fan of. Again, design wise,
Yeah.
I love pointing out the cards that I think are designed very well, and this is honestly one of them, because the way that I describe this card to people is it is free to activate, but the resource that you're putting into it is your action point. You are able to spend an action point to destroy the top card of your opponent's deck.
Yeah.
And with
Yes.
the way that Max is able to play, isn't that just a cool way to explain it? Like, I see Cal stroking his beard.
it's like
Yeah.
it's such a weird wording, but it works for Flesh and Blood. No other card game I know says destroy the top of your deck. Like, it's weird and interesting.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of just the way that the card is worded and designed. Again, like, that's very recurring theme for cards that I enjoy in this game. Is if they're well designed, then I will most of the time point them out for being well designed. And yeah, I think that it's just a really, really cool card. I like that it kind of shows off some things that I haven't gotten a list together that makes sense quite yet, but I do feel like Max Grinding Gears is just a really fun deck, like from a combo standpoint, where you're able to system reset a bunch of hyperdrivers back into play, get like 6 or 7 action points, and then start milling your opponent out with the Grinding Gears. Especially in Blitz, where you already have, you get to crank all of them. Yeah, in Blitz, where your opponent already has so few cards anyway, you can just like push them into a really, really fun, for you at least, a really fun, like, what's the word of it? When you're in fatigue, there we go. That's I don't know why that took so long for me to get, but yeah, like fatigue strategies, I think are really like not super fun, but this one pushes you into a fatigue strategy. So it's not like you're wasting a bunch of time and potentially going to time in the round. You're able to just like really fast get there and be like, we're in fatigue now, deal with it.
Yeah, it's not like you're trading card for card fatigue. It's not you're blocking out. It's you're comboing off to fatigue them, basically, aren't you? Rather than just blocking. Yeah, exactly.
What I like,
absolute mill.
What I love about this card is that it is one of those cards that right now it's kind of just like like Bill was saying, like a fun little gimmicky kind of thing. But it's also one of those cards that you have to really keep in mind when they print like future things that help you get extra action points, right? Because like any extra little thing can make this card like kind of nuts. Like, I can just foresee a future where there's like some sort of card that gives you insane action point equity, and then you're just like, I just use them all with Grinding Gears and mill my opponent completely out. Like, I can see that happening. Like, give it some time. Yeah.
So. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's my final pick for cards that came out in the year 2023 for Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, it was a pretty Bill definitely had the most varied list here. Whereas and we stayed pretty in our lanes. I was like mostly assassin until I hit you with that final act. And then Az obviously is not just Ranger cards, but Azalea cards specifically. And I think this was a really interesting year. I think the fact that Az and I picked almost all Outsiders cards, and even Bill picked a couple Outsiders cards, really goes to show just how much we really love Outsiders.
Outsiders was a phenomenal set, like just through and through. It was really, really good.
Yeah, I said it last week, but it's definitely my favorite set in Flesh and Blood, and it is very likely one of my favorite sets in any card game, like in just TCG history. It's incredible.
It was really a very unique experience for me as well to have my favorite character actually come back into the fold, like draftable, You know, you could play with Azalea in a sealed environment, in a draft environment. You could draft Azalea, something I've never experienced before, because obviously that was back in Arcane Rising. So it was nice to experience that also. But yeah, obviously my list was very, very streamlined. But I think that's only going to happen. I don't think that's ever going to happen again, to be honest.
It might
For a while at least.
Yeah.
Be able to say my top 5 cards this year were all Ranger cards for my favorite hero. I don't think that's ever going to happen again. So it's an interesting top 5 this year for sure. We'll see what happens, I guess.
Just wait until 2025 where we have Outsiders 2 and they finally introduce the Pits talent. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a new Azalea hero, which that's my next goal, is to spoil another Azalea hero. If she gets reprinted, that's my next goal, is to spoil the next Azalea hero.
Because I'll be honest, I think this year, I mean in 2024, it's not make a good video, but obviously we're having heavy hitters, and I think the other two are gonna be the Mysterious set, which is very likely called Transcendence. And then I think the third set might actually be that all Arcane set that James White has mentioned a few times. I think that's what we're going to get in 2024. I think getting the all Arcane set and heavy hitters in the same year makes a lot of sense to me, both design-wise, card equity-wise, and just kind of like flavor-wise. So you have an all physical set and then you have an all Arcane set, both in the same year. Makes sense to me from like a balancing, but not like gameplay balance, but like a card balance kind of deal. Like, and then the Mysterious set I think is just coming. So that's what I think for 2024. Oh, before we get to the Arsenal step, did we have any mailbag things that we wanted to talk about as we wrap it up?
I think there is one in there. Let me just double check. I think there is one in there.
I remember you mentioning it, but I don't remember if we already covered their topic either last week or even this week.
Yeah, so there is one in there. So it's from a few weeks ago. So apologies that it's taken us so long to get to it. But obviously we've had a few live shows in between and all this and Christmas and that. So this is from Aaron Nash. So they're saying, hey all, question for you to explore. Lately, I've been working on building out a foiled Shiana deck for Ultimate Pit Fight, and it's left me with a question for you folks. If you could build a deck with any hero with and any cards from any class, what would that look like for you? What equipment do you think you'd use, and what hero would pilot the deck? Do you think there'd be cards that would become staples if they were available in every deck? So I guess it's like a shapeshifter situation, isn't it? Where you can use anything.
I would literally just build Uzuri, but I'd have better cards to swap in. That's literally it. It would just be Uzuri, but my swap cards would be insane. Like even more so.
Swap in like red in the ledges and bloody.
Yeah. I'd swap in
crutches.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it has to be cost 2 or less. I think that's the stipulation on it. But you could swap in a red in the ledger or any other arrow, or there's some other big hitting attacks. I could swap in some like brute cards. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Cost 2 or less. Yeah, that's this ability, isn't it? Yeah. So you wouldn't be able to swap in Bravo cards. Imagine that. That would be ridiculous if you could do that.
I might run some Bravo. I might run some Bravo cards though. I don't know. But yeah, my answer's easy. Yeah, it would just be Uzuri still, and I would just have more options to swap. I want all my swaps to take a card out of my opponent's hand. So that's what I would like.
Yeah, mine is interesting. I would want to run at the very least. I don't know. I would want to run Shadow Runeblade stuff in Datadol. I'm still on this train. I want
Shadow Mech.
I want Shadow Mech to be a thing because the interaction between Chain's Soul Shackles and Datadol's ability is hilarious to me. And just really good. You're able to turbo out all of your items, and to me that is where the fun lies, and I want that to be a thing. So, so at the very least you get like shadow puppetry, I think.
Mechalovossen mains in shambles. not recognized as true shadow mech.
Well, it's not like that's the deck. The deck is
No,
a mech
no.
deck that happens to have a shadow mech hero in it. Yeah, I want there to be like a real shadow mech deck.
That'd be sick.
I can't help but wonder if they did that because they just were like, yeah, we're never gonna make this a thing because it's ridiculous. So let's just kind of throw them a little bone, and here's like your shadow mech. Like, yeah, I'm very curious of like the design history of that specifically. We did talk about that with Brian Gottlieb on the channel or on the podcast earlier this year, but not really about like, you know, the community history behind shadow mech. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my sort of answer to this would be I love Shiana as a deck. I love the fact that she can use specializations from any hero. So yeah, Shiana is one of my favorite heroes apart from Azalea. But I would love to see a specialization. Obviously, we've had a few specialization weapons like Vincett's specialization, etc. I think it's a fairly new thing where we're getting specialization weapons. But I would love a specialization-based bow, which means that Shiana could use arrows in her deck. If Shiana could use arrows in her deck, that would be a lovely old job. She could use red in the ledger. She could use intoxicating shots. Not really. Nobody cares about that. But the thing is, she could use arrow attacks in her deck then, which would make which would make me a massive fan, obviously. So yeah, if we get a specialization bow, I'm going to be building a Shiana deck. Shiana
just so you can use red in the ledger and
just so I can use red in the ledger, but also on the off turns use a bloody crippling crush if I want to.
On the off turns.
On the off turns, yeah, use a crippling crush, or maybe get another ranger with the buzzsaw trap. Just stupid things like that. So yeah, give us a specialization bow, and then I want to run a Shiana deck with that for sure. Because what are Shiana's options? She's got Vincett's weapon and then Talishar. That's it, right? At the moment, I guess.
For weapons, I think you have a lot of options for like offhands and crap. Yeah. Because there's like the ornate Tezen, you have like the lantern. There's a handful. Shield.
But then you need a one-handed weapon, which the only option is Vincett's weapon, I think.
Currently, we'll see if we get some one-handers or two-hander generics and heavy hitters. We're already getting a generic shield, so we'll see if we get anything else. Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah. That's a cool little experiment. So thanks for emailing us. And if you want to email us, Living Legends Podcast @gmail.com is where you can forward your stories, comments, or questions to us, and we'll read them out as and when we get them. When we get round to them. Obviously, this is quite an old one, but thanks, Aaron, nonetheless.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that really for that part.
Sweet. And just to round out the episode before we go, I have a quick little arsenal step.
Yep.
And mine, I've already talked about it both on my channel, and I think I might have mentioned it in the live stream show, but my only thing that I want to talk about is that I'm going to Japan in February. So it was finally announced. I've known about it for a while, but yes, I'm going to Japan, specifically to Akihabara in Tokyo, to do casting and coverage for the World Finals for Shadowverse Evolve. And I'm so incredibly excited to work with both Cygames and Bushiroad on this, and to go to Japan. And I'm going to be spending a couple extra days to explore specifically Akiba, and just go to all the shops. I want to hit up all the card shops and all of the figure stores and just all the cool places. I'm very much looking forward to it. Going to be doing vlogs and all that kind of good stuff. That's basically my arsenal step. Just been diving into other card game stuff recently. Obviously, doing a lot of preparation for Shadowverse Evolve Worlds, which is only few short month away. So I want to be prepared for that. That's basically it. I have a bunch of other stuff I can save for future arsenal steps, I guess.
I look forward to seeing look forward to seeing those videos for your Japan trip, because yes, somewhere that a lot of us want to go to eventually. So yeah, it'd be nice to see how your experience turns out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I'm going to be, for folks watching this who might watch other content out there, my co-caster is going to be Ignitius, who is, as far as Shadowverse content goes, like, digital Shadowverse content, he's like the guy. So I've been watching him for a long time. So it's cool that I get to work with Ignitius. He seems like a really, really, really like cool dude. And then Different Fight is going to be there doing casting and coverage for Cardfight Vanguard. And Different Fight is also a card gaming YouTuber who seems like a really, really nice dude. I've been watching a lot of his content recently. So it'll be great to meet him. And I know he, in particular, he speaks English, but also he speaks Japanese very well, and he lives in Japan. So maybe like, hanging out with him a little bit and going to like dinner or lunch will be great. So I can
get some recommendations to what to do. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, some folks in my Discord who are from Japan actually dropped some recommendations already. Someone this morning wrote me like a giant paragraph of stuff to do in Akihabara. So yeah, it's cool. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm pretty nervous. This is my first time traveling by myself to a foreign country that I've never been to before with a language that I don't speak. So I'm nervous on that level, but I'm also very excited. So yeah.
Absolutely.
That'll be a really cool trip. I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Good stuff.
before that, I keep forgetting to mention that. Before that, on the January 20th, I'm going to be going to the Last Chance qualifier in LA for Shadowverse Evolve. Not as casting coverage, but still as like a media guest, I guess you could say. But I will be playing in the event, so it's going to be good prep for the Worlds. But
nice.
How about you guys? Anything in your back pocket?
Not really, not for me. I'm basically just in holiday mode personally, so
Yeah.
there's that's all I got.
Yeah, that's the MO
How
at
about
the
you
moment.
guys?
Is just exactly the same, really, mate. To be honest, just chilling out, probably eating and drinking much more than what I should be. But hey, that's what these sort of seasons are all about, I guess. Just eating and drinking for a lot of people. Just meeting up with friends and family and doing some stuff. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens next year with Flesh and Blood and how the sets are received. Obviously, Heavy Hitters is going to be a parallel to Outsiders, as we've already discussed. Similar sort of vibes coming out of that set, and can't wait to see what other sets are going to be next year as well, and what other products there might be as well, because obviously we've had a few other products here and there, so it could be interesting to see if there's anything else apart from the draftable and the other sets, as to if there's anything else coming out as well. So
yeah,
fun time.
I'm really hoping for some exciting sets next year. I'm not saying that Bright Lights and Dust Till Dawn weren't exciting, but for me personally, they were some like 2 back-to-back sets that I can kind of just check out of. There's some kind of cool stuff here or there, but they didn't give me the same kind of like entrenchment that Outsiders and like Uprising and even like Dynasty did. So I'm hoping we can have more sets like that next year that I can feel like, invested in, because I didn't really feel invested in the last 2 sets, even though I didn't hate them. Like, I don't think they're bad. It's just, I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe it's just because I don't play mech as much. Maybe it's because I don't play the shadow or the light stuff as much. I just didn't feel like that level of investment that I normally do.
Yep, we've discussed this at length on a previous podcast of the hero problem. How you can get attached to certain heroes, certain classes, and if the set doesn't have what you want, then
it's not even
TBA. Can't be
it's kind of like that, but it's not even that, because other sets that I don't have. So like, I think a good example is Uprising. I don't play a lot of Ninja or Wizard or Illusionist, but I still really liked Uprising, and I was really invested in it because it had heroes that I could potentially get into. So like, I did build a Fi deck, I built an Icelander deck, and I did one of my most popular videos is a Dromai deck that I did. Yep. But I really didn't feel that level of attachment to either Dust Till Dawn or Bright Lights, where I was like, oh, I want to build all these things and do all this stuff. So that's what I'm hoping next year we can have some sets that I personally can really get into like that. I feel like if they do a Mysteria set, I would probably be very, very into that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so heavy hitters on the horizon. This is a good segue to the end of the video, because our next video, we're likely going to be talking about all of the new heavy hitters heroes released recently. We saw a new warrior hero. I have heard rumblings that we'll see a new brute hero within the next couple days. And so by the time we record our podcast, we'll be able to talk about all of them. So in the next episode, we're likely going to be talking about a bunch of heavy hitters news, heroes, and all of that kind of good stuff. And maybe see if it's on its way to sparking joy within me personally, at least.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I'm sure like there's a ton of people who are really stoked about it already.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I am. Like I was just saying, I'm very interested in seeing what is in store for Brute.
I have some thoughts on heavy hitters. I think it looks like a really cool draft set, but 2 of the new heroes that we've seen so far look like they have very, what's the right word for it? I'm not sure if parasitic mechanic is the right word for it, but they both have hero abilities that care about a keyword introduced in the set. And I can't help but wonder if this is the only place we ever see that keyword, if these heroes in particular don't have much legs in regards to support over time. So I don't know. We'll see. I have some thoughts on that. We'll talk about that maybe next week when we go over the heroes. But
yeah,
something I've been thinking about.
Yeah.
Also, you should probably buy your cash-ins if you want to play Olympia, because bro likes to cash stuff in. Just saying. So anyway, with that said, I think we can probably wrap it up. And let's go reverse order. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so if you would so desire. So my name's Az from Go Again Gaming YouTube channel. Probably the shittest YouTube channel on the internet. But hey ho, it's good fun.
Not even in like the top 50 shittest channels. I'm sorry.
Top, exactly. Yeah.
50%. I mean, 50%.
Just existing. I made £60 this year from monetization on YouTube. It's a massive amount of money. But yeah, so that's Go Again Gaming, and then on Twitter and socials is Go Again Gaming AZ, where a lot of my thoughts go as and when I think of them. I like to post them. That's it, really. That's it. So I'll throw it over to whoever's next.
Bill.
That'll be me. I'm Bill from the Spike Feeders. You can find me on Twitter and other social media websites at BillTSF. You can also find me on YouTube at the Spike Feeders FAB, where we do live edited gameplay content. And if that's something that interests you, you should definitely go check us out. We have our most recent one is a UPF video, and we also have our Goliath Gauntlet series with, I believe Jay and Elliot are currently battling it out. So always worth checking that out if that's something that interests you.
Yeah. You should check it out. And I'm Kel, also known as Red Zone Rogue. You can find me everywhere at Red Zone Rogue. Mostly on YouTube, but also, like Twitter and other stuff like that. I do weekly Flesh and Blood videos, as well as weekly Grand Archive and Shadowverse Evolve videos, plus extra stuff here and there. Because I like card games and I like talking about card games, so expect a little bit of variety there. But for the Flesh and Blood people who really only want to watch Flesh and Blood, at least a video a week, maybe sometimes more. Depends on how much news we have to talk about. Yeah. Thanks you all so much for watching, hanging out with us today. Let us know what your favorite cards of the year are down below, and why they are 5 copies of Warmonger's Diplomacy. And we'll see you next time. Thanks again.
See you, folks.
Cheers.
Bye.
5 copies of Warmongers.
5 copies.